Yo, what's going on, trading family? We've been talking a lot today. But it is still July 31st, Friday, July 31st. Today, I will say has been well on paper by the numbers, it's been our worst trading day ever. But I really feel like in retrospect that it's exactly what I needed. Um I blew my first prop firm account. I think earlier, the early video I posted earlier said that I was close to blowing it, but I didn't quite get there. But I went back and recalculated. I was like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure I blew this account. And then I tried to do a trade and it got rejected. So let me know for sure. I'm done. With that being said, let's evaluate the reason as to why. So this morning when I woke up, my account was at like 51.2, 51.3. I had about $1,700 to go to reach funded levels. My first trade I did, I've been doing really good with the 5 minute orb. Today was no different. Hit the trade, boom. I cut it off prematurely, but still ended up getting $600 off of that trade, which was a great start. So now instead of being $1,700 away, now I'm only $1,100 away. And so that pretty much came in the first probably not even 15 minutes of the day. So I'm like, all right, cool. I can get in another trade. So let me go ahead and knock this out. So hop into the second trade, and I'm not gonna say that this is when it fell apart. Um, but it potentially was maybe the beginning. Normally, what I've been doing is if I make $600 a day, then I'm like, cool. The rest of the day, I'm good. I'll trade again tomorrow. And it's been going well for me doing that because, like I always say, $400 a day. If you can consistently hit that number, that's six figures a year. So if you're making $600 a day, then you're doing even better than that. That's the attitude I've been taking. But today I went ahead and took that second trade, and I actually played it perfect as far as my psychology in the movement of the market. But my downfall was not letting the retest get back far enough, which I'm not going to say it's anything wrong with that. Obviously, you don't know how the market's going to move. Sometimes the retest will come down and touch completely. Sometimes it won't. Sometimes it'll be a gap in between where it actually lands at and where the actual zone you had marked out was. So I hopped in a little bit early, and that caused me to set my stop loss further out than I normally would. Or I'm not going to say further out than I normally would, but the amount of contracts I had, along with how far I set my stop loss out, it made the risk that I was taking be a lot more than I would normally take. With that being said, um, the trade moved against me for about 2 minutes or so, and it didn't get close to my stop loss, but just seeing the number trickling up as far as me being in the negative, that got me somewhat worried. And my thought process in my head is, oh crap, if I keep letting this go, it's a potential that I could be over $2,000 in losses. That was my immediate thought. And then instead of just letting it play out, because you don't lose until you sell. That's always the saying. But instead of letting it play out, I went ahead and nipped it in the bud mid trade. And then probably not even 10, 15 seconds later, it started going in the direction that I needed it to go in. And this is where my legit problem started. If I would have just stopped right there and said, all right, I'm good. I backtracked a little bit. I lost some money. I'm gonna come back on Monday and hit it again. Then I made 600. I would have lost 1,400. So in total for the day, I would have been down about $800. But instead, like I said, this is where my issue came in at. It wasn't the fact that I made that trade. It was the fact that once I realized, crap, I actually should have wrote it out. Then I FOMO'd into a second trade. And the thing that sucks even more is because anytime when I get done trading, I usually always journal the trade before I even take another one, before I even look at the computer anymore. Today, I didn't do that. I made the first trade, immediately went looking for the second trade, and then immediately FOMO'd and looked into this third one. And then when I got into the third one, once again, without thinking, like I said, I literally had just made a mistake, and I literally FOMO'd into the same exact mistake again, and it played out the same exact way. Same exact way. I got in at an even worse position, thinking, okay, now it's going the direction I want it to go. So I need to go ahead and get in before it does its thing. And then it ended up retesting again, but now I'm even further away from where I set my stop loss, because I set the stop loss back at the same spot. So with that being said, once again in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh crap, I only got like a $2,000 drawdown per day or whatever it is. And again, I went ahead and canceled out the trade. I'm not sure how lucid trading works. Maybe they'll let you, as long as the profit or loss is unrealized, maybe it doesn't count on your drawdown when you're in the evaluation phase. But either way, once I closed it out, I know I wasn't able to go back in and place any more trades. So I'm assuming once I closed it, it was like, all right, it's finalized, you're done. But with that being said, it's nobody's fault but mine. If I would have simply just let that second trade play out, not touch it, like elementary mistakes, stuff that I was doing when I first started trading futures. And honestly, I've been solid on this whole week. This whole week, any trade that I got into that was a bad trade, I still let it play out to see, because sometimes you never know, for better or for worse. But I was also managing my risk better. I've never risked. I've never risked over $1,000 in one trade. Normally it's between about three, maybe 500 at the very most, but usually right around the $300 to $400 range. And this day, like I said, I did not check how many contracts I had plugged in, and I was actually looking at the micro MES contract, or MES initially, which of course is a little bit cheaper, so I could play 10 contracts and it not be as big of a deal. And then I switched over to the MNQ, and obviously those contracts are more expensive. So when I had 10 inserted, that was based on me playing SPY, not on NASDAQ. But anyways, I didn't adjust it accordingly, or else I would have adjusted it probably down to like 3 or 4 at the absolute very most. And even that, I might even go lower than that. But anyways, I say that to say this. I was this close to passing my evaluation the very first time, which I was excited to do. I was happy to do. I was proud to reach that achievement. But life happens. I would rather this happen now than for me to pass my evaluation and then go blow the account first thing Monday. But this whole week has been a learning experience. I literally just started trading futures. Today would be the 5th day of this week, and then 3 days last week. So 8 days total, I just started trading futures. Prior to that, I had spent about 12 or 13 days trading options. And I literally just started taking trading serious 1 month ago exactly. Right at the beginning of July is when I started taking trading seriously. During that time, 4th of July, so the market was closed for the holidays. I took a trip to South Carolina, so I missed those days of trading. So I haven't even been trading literally a full consistent month. I've had a couple gaps in between due to different reasons. So I'm still proud of how far I came. But with that being said, I got to set some rules for myself. So I'm going to go through those rules with you guys on kind of just what I mentally thought through and noticed that I need to do to be a better trader. So rule number 1, like I always say, $400 a day gets you to 6 figures a year. Anything extra is icing on the cake. So moving forward, if I can hit $400 or more per day, I'm done for the day. Simple as that. If I can hit $400 or more, I probably won't hit it right at 400. Usually, if you get to 400, you're going to probably get to 6, 7, 8. So, if I hit at least four, I'm going to be done for the day. Um, Rule number two, I'm only going to be trading beginning of New York, beginning of Tokyo, and whenever I get an alert for my supply and demand zones. I've been doing real good on the 5 minute orb, like I mentioned. So hopefully I can get my $400 during that time. Um, if I do not get it during that time, or I have a losing trade during that time, then as long as I have not gone down $400 for the day, then I may reattempt to play to make up for the initial one. But I'm setting my quote unquote cap at $400 or more, I'm done. Or if I lose 400, I'm done. Doesn't matter which way it go, 400 is the magic number. And like I said, I'm pretty much only trading those 3 times in a day: New York Open, Tokyo Open, or whether if my supplier demand zone is alerted. Rule number 3: never place a trade without journaling the last. If I just took a quick second between trade number 1 to trade number 2, first off, I probably would not even have been in trade number 2. And if I even took a quick second between trade number 2 and trade number 3, then I probably would not have been in number 3, because that gives me some time to think through my process. That gives me some time to analyze what just happens. That gives me some time to jot down notes on exactly what played through my mind and led to those results, so I can then correct myself if needed, if stuff is going sideways. Rule number 4, my risk versus reward. I need to, like I said, this very last time, for whatever reason, I played way too much. $1,000 risk is too much for what I was trying to do. Didn't make any sense. So now I'm gonna look to stick to my $200 to $300, at very most maybe $400, but I'm gonna really try to stay in that $200 to $300 range on my risk and maximize my profits and my profit targets. And the very last thing, number 5, is just very simple: to always remember that the goal is to make profit, yes, but even before making profit, the goal is to preserve capital. Manage your risk first, make profit second. If you can manage the risk, you'll win the game in the end. If you make profits, you'll win the round, but managing risk is winning the game. So with that being said, those are my 5 rules I've set for myself moving forward. I've gone back in, purchased or reset my account, and actually purchased a second account that I'm going to work on. That's a 25K, not a 50K. So next week I'll be starting out in the 25K, practicing these rules I've set in place, making them into habits. Once we do complete that evaluation, which I'm manifesting here right now with my words, then we'll move on to the 50K again and retry it. So yeah, that's what I'm looking like. I appreciate you guys as always for tuning in. Keep on following. Of course, visit contracts.app or check it out on Google. Contracts Trading Journal. I promise you it'll come in handy for you, and it's super cheap, only $2 a month. So go ahead and download that, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.